On this week's episode, we're going to discuss malware that's so ruthless, it's ready for a street fight. Welcome to Destination Linux, where we discuss the latest news, hot topics, gaming, mobile, and all things open source and Linux. My name is Michael.
I'm Jill.
And I'm Ryan. Or Ryu.
Or Ryu. It's pronounced Ryu.
Is it? Wow.
Yes.
This whole time.
It is pronounced Ryu. I thought it was Ryu for like decades, and then I watched a movie that had him say it multiple times. Like, really? So I looked it up. Turns out, yeah, it's Ryu.
So is Ken really Ken? Or is it?
I mean, yeah, Ken is Ken.
Okay.
Ken is Ken, for sure. Also, this week, we're going to discuss pen testing distro tools and running full Linux on your Android. Plus, we got some Linux gaming, our software spotlight, and more. So let's get this show on the road toward Destination Linux.
Our feedback this week comes from Squirrely Dave. They have this to say. I wanted to throw another perspective on WSL here. I've used it in anger, as some people would say, i.e. for real in production. It may be fine sometimes. That has never been my experience using it. In an environment where I was creating automation that interacted a lot with Linux-type devices or other services, I used WSL as a number of years because things like Ansible on Windows are a joke or worthless. The only option is WSL because WSL exists. In an environment where the IT department maintains tight control of user workstations, a typical enterprise scenario, I found WSL to be a huge pain. In fact, most of my team spent a fair amount of time developing on Linux servers. That was a better user experience. WSL was difficult to set up and provided very little real advantage over a Linux server, except for the information security group. They were able to enforce their own policies on the workstations. This is effectively neuters the power of WSL, which isn't great to begin with. My advice to anyone thinking about WSL, if you have a choice, don't bother. Use a real virtual machine instead. So, appreciate that feedback, Squirrely Dave, very much. I think that's very insightful. Somebody who's using it, tried to use it day in and day out for their job, did not have a great experience with it. However, we did get a lot of emails from people talking about in their environment for whatever pieces they're doing in development. It was very useful. So I think it's really interesting that we have so many people passionate about the WSL discussion that we had like weeks ago. And the feedback keeps pouring in about WSL, which is great. I mean, this is your section community. If you want to talk about WSL every week, we'll talk about WSL every week. It really is something that either is accepted as a good tool or completely hated. And I would say
no middle ground for sure.
Yeah. I'm somewhere on the middle ground though. I feel like I don't hate it. I don't care for it either.
I am one of those people who proudly states that I hate it, having never used it at all.
That's such a great position to take, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm in the middle. I've used it. I don't care for it, but I know a lot of people who use it, at work and who need it for various reasons. So
yeah,
if it works for your needs, then use it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the big thing to take out of this. If WSL works for you, keep using it. If it doesn't work for you, then don't make yourself suffer through it. You don't have to. You can use virtual machines or other things to get a similar job done. So, Squirrely Dave, thank you for sending that in. And if you want to ask a question, if you want to give your take on WSL or something else entirely, you can send your comments or questions to
Feel free to be
Linux.
Anything else. We've got a lot of WSL comments recently.
Not that we don't appreciate them, Michael.
We do appreciate them.
We appreciate it, yeah. DestinationLinux.net/comments or DestinationLinux.net/forum out there. I don't know. I feel like there's so much WSL passion here. I might have to go try to check out WSL just to, unlike Michael, I want to test the theory of whether I should stay on the fence, hate it, or love it. So I'm gonna have to give WSL
okay. First of all, are you on the fence because you've never tried it before?
No, I've played with WSL quite a bit,
okay.
But it's been a while. It's been like a long while. Like I played with it back when WSL was first kind of getting popular.
Oh, like the version 1 thing.
Yeah. I mean, and I've installed it recently to see if it gotten any better. And I was just like, I got bored within like 5 minutes. I was like, I don't really care that much. And then I went and installed Linux instead.
Well,
but
I have no access to a Windows machine, so that's why I've never tried it.
Listen,
but I'm
you
also
Linux purist.
But I'm also perfectly fine with saying that I hate it regardless because of what it stands for. Like it's taking something that is taking a different OS to trying to give it tools into Windows that Windows can't do. And then the opposite is not done as well. So I feel like, it's just a principle thing, really.
So if Microsoft gave us Office, would you change your mind?
Sure. I would say I don't care at that point.
I don't hate you anymore. I just don't care.
I don't like your stuff, but I like the fact that you support my platform. That's what I would say. That's about it, I think.
Well, interestingly, I was reading something. I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but I was reading an article, like just scrolling through news articles. And one of them was talking about the amount of users on Google Docs now. And it was like millions. It was a very impressive number. I don't remember how much it was, but it was shockingly large and a lot of businesses moving. So maybe Office won't even be such a big thing anymore because you've got some additional, not that Google's that much better of an alternative, but at least
it's slightly better.
Use it in Linux.
Yeah, because at least you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Michael, I've been in some cybersecurity courses lately. You know this because my time
you very rarely answer my messages. Almost never answer my calls.
Yeah.
And when you finally do, it's all you're talking about is cybersecurity. So
that's the only thing on my head right now. I got all the cybersecurity courses that I'm doing to get my cybersecurity degree, and it's been a ton of fun. And it's made me even more enamored with Kali Linux. And every class I take, which has really impressed me, mentions, uses, or discusses Kali Linux in some way, like its powerful suite of tools.
I mean, I feel like that's a requirement.
Yeah.
And, I honestly expected these courses because, sometimes college can be a little behind the times where by the time they're teaching things, they don't update their education materials to keep up with the latest trends sometimes, depending on school you're going to, class you're taking, that type of stuff. And I was just very surprised of how on it they were with Kali Linux. Not that Kali Linux is new, but their stuff that they were talking about was newer versions and installing it and all this. And I was just like, look at Linux getting all of the popularity.
All the love. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, a cybersecurity course, I feel like if you don't cover Linux, then you're not doing a very good cybersecurity course.
Very good point. That's fair. That's a very fair point. So it makes me very happy when I see that we have a new version of Kali Linux out there. Now, a lot of times when we cover distros and things, it's kind of like, hey, like with Kali Linux, you got the new Qualcomm Snapdragon SOC supported. You've got some new bug fixes, all this stuff. And it's interesting. It's awesome if you're in that world. But if you're not using Kali Linux or something else, maybe not as interesting. But this one caught my attention because they have 11 new tools. And a lot of these are pen testing cybersecurity tools, which are really, really cool. So I wanted to cover these 11 tools so that if you're thinking about using Kali Linux, this might just get you a little more excited to go check it out and try it. Although I have a warning for you, but I'll do that after I go through how cool the tools are because I don't want to, I want to get you all pumped up and excited. Very excited. So you've got Gosh.
I don't want to give you a bummer before I give you the cool stuff.
Yeah,
we're going to do the bummer after.
Now I'm going to mispronounce everything here, and then Mike will come in and fix it. We've got Gosh.
Actually, okay, it's just Go SSH.
Go SSH. Yeah.
However, Go SHS. Sorry, Go SHS. However, when you started, right before you started saying this and pronouncing it wrong, I thought to myself, he's going to say Goshes.
You knew it.
Look, because there's no hyphen.
I wanted to say it
there. It's just GOSHS. So it's Goshes. It's Goshes.
I feel like if they don't call it Goshes, they should. They should just adopt it now.
You're welcome. Goshes. It's a simple HTTP server, but written in Go and with more features in there. You've got GR Audit, which is a grep rough audit source code auditing.
I thought you were going to say Grot
It, that would be good. Gsocket. No, Gsocket.
Gsocket.
Gsocket allows two machines on different networks to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
You've got Hecatomb.
I think that's right. I think that's right.
Hecatomb is great.
I'm 1 for 1. Extract or 1 for 5. Whatever. Shut up. Extract and decrypt all credentials from all domain computers. That one sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really fun.
Sounds like hecka fun.
Hecka fun. You got MX Check, info and security scanner for email servers. You've got NetExec, network service exploitation tool that helps automate assessing the security of large networks.
I feel like both of those you got right. The next one is going to be super hard for you. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
NetScanner. No, I'm kidding. NetScanner. Network scanner and diagnostic tool with modern TUI. And we've got Obsidian, which is a private and flexible writing app that adapts to the way you think. Now, is that open source, Michael?
It is, in fact, not. It is not.
Interesting. So,
but it is fantastic. It's interesting because there's the 4 pillars of open source, or the free software movement, or whatever, and it applies to 3 of them. But technically speaking, the code is not accessible. But you can get plugins that are open source. There's the data that you create is stored on your system, and it doesn't, unless you want it to go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. It's also in Markdown, which is super awesome. And it's not in like some weird gibberish database style Markdown. It's just basic plain files that you put wherever you want on your system. I'm a big fan of Obsidian. In fact, I've been using it for at least 2 or 3 years, maybe more. I don't remember.
Yeah. So what do you use for your note taking, Jill? I use Standard Notes. Michael, Obsidian. Jill, Notepad.
Standard is one of the top ones. Yeah.
Standard.
And honestly, Vi or Vim. I'm still old school.
You know what Jill does? She knows what our fans and the people listening want to hear, and she goes with that. Like, of course she's going to say Vi or Vim. Think about
I need to change my statement to Emacs.
Yeah, Emacs.
Yeah, Emacs is a good choice, and I do like Nedit. I like Joe, so I still use the old
Nedit and Joe are mine. Yeah, I don't use Standard Notes. Nedit and Joe.
Yeah,
that way we get all the fans. See, you got the Emacs. I don't even know the Joe or the other one either. So
Joe is a fork of another one, like JEdit or something.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Correct, Michael.
Yeah. You seem so
I use it every day, Michael. Of course I know that. Yeah. It was named after G.I. Joe's, by the way. In the history
G.I. Joe's.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else?
Give you guys a little history lesson. Well,
I thought it was Joe's apartment, but yeah, it could be.
Whatever.
Yeah, Joe.
The next one's Sips. Come on. Sips.
Sips.
Can you correct that, Michael? Sippets?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
I feel like it should be Sippets just because I want it to be.
It's a set of tools to audit SIP-based VoIP systems. You've got Sprayhound, password spraying tool, and Bloodhound integration. And then you've got SQL MC. Check all URLs of a domain for SQL injections, which that's a very useful tool. That's a very common way of breaking into stuff.
That's not what it's for. SQL MC is a nerdcore wrapper. Yeah, SQL.
Yes,
gosh,
that's
Michael.
true.
Not really, happy, but it should be.
I was happy they put NetScanner in there because I've used that a lot, and I remember the last time I ran Kali Linux, it wasn't in there, and I just installed it.
So Kali Linux, it's interesting you mentioned that one. Kali Linux is not a daily driver, right? It's not really what it's meant for. I mean, people I'm sure out there do use it for that, but that's not its primary purpose. It's a pen testing tool. And I was recently playing with some tools because I'm in college for cybersecurity. It's kind of a requirement, and ended up doing this entire network scan because I didn't read the man pages. And so I didn't, I saw a switch. He gave a suggestion as a switch that was kind of like an all. It was bigger than just /all, but it was like a lot. And I was like, I don't know. They're giving us a recommendation. Let me run it and just see what it does. Anyways, the ISP that I used got so mad they shut off my internet for 24 hours because it was scanning everything. Like, not just my local network. I mean, it was going through the ISP stuff. It was hitting everything. And it was like, it had reached 150,000 nodes before they shut me off.
So what you should do, people, is this is some information that we now have to have a slogan that Kali does, like Kali responsibly. That's what they have. That should be their slogan.
Tools can be very dangerous. They're very powerful. You should read before you just run them, but that goes against everything. My entire life philosophy of just run it. Just run. Yep. You know, my team had that thing. Like, they always make a joke, like, what's Ryan going to say about it? Be like, just run it. Cause I'm just like, let's see what happens. Let's do it. I did that with Kali and it didn't work out so well. So be careful.
You did find out some good information.
I learned.
We found out that Ryan's a noob.
Whoa!
Teasing.
Jill! It's true.
Got him.
I'm unhackable.
Dang. Did you see Jill throwing the flames there, Mike?
So good. So good. So good.
Called me a noob.
I mean, you are kind of a noob when it comes to Kali Linux.
Script kitty, noob.
Yeah.
But that's fantastic. So you said earlier that it shouldn't be a daily driver, and that's completely true. I commented, I said this on the previous episode of Twill where I covered Kali Linux release, and I got a comment just a couple days ago where someone's yelling at me for daring I say that Kali Linux is not the daily driver type thing. And it's funny because their argument was that it's based on Debian, therefore. I'm like, what does that mean? Yeah, just because it's based on something that you could doesn't mean that it automatically inherits every value that the other thing has, because that's not how derivatives work. But it's just funny because there's going to be people who are going to completely disagree. They're wrong. It's okay to be wrong, but they're wrong. And Kali Linux is 100% designed to not necessarily be a daily driver. Yes, if you are a pen testing professional, do whatever you want. Related to Kali Linux in the terms of that doesn't violate laws, then do whatever you want. But if you're brand new to it, like Ryan, for example, you should not be daily driving it. You don't want to be a noob with Kali.
Yeah.
I think there's no purpose to use Kali as a daily driver unless you're a pen tester or you're into cybersecurity and things. There's really nothing that it would be providing you, or if you're using it for education, you want to learn what the tools do, that type of stuff. But otherwise, you would not use this as like your main stable system. Not that it's not stable, but it's just all the tools and things that it's already comes pre-installed don't make sense for 99.9% of the population out there. So it's very cool. You can do amazing things.
The funny thing is that like at least 90% of its history, Kali Linux was always root by default, root only by default. Mm-hmm. And only recently, like the past year or two, they changed that so you can actually have a user-based system. So people for like it was even more so before. And the problem is that people think Kali Linux is a system that, it can break into other things, so it must be good in security on its own. And that is not at all what it's made for. It's not made to be hardened in terms of usability. It's made to break into other things. And so that's really what people doing it wrong.
You could make it very hardened if you wanted to.
I'm saying obviously. If you're going through the process of doing that, you might as well just use a distro that doesn't make you do that for your daily driver. Where there's also examples like other cybersecurity distros like Parrot OS. Like Parrot has a lets a break stuff and then like a daily driver version. So like those kinds of things make more sense. And if you really must use a cybersecurity distro, use the one that was made for it if you want to. But Kali Linux is fantastic and it's been around for a very long time. And I'm a big fan of what they do. But I still like every time we cover it, it's always like it's not for everybody. Just use it with caution.
I think a lot of people use it just because it's cool and you're going to see it in the media. You're going to see it talked about in colleges. You're going to see it in TV shows. You're going to see it in a lot of stuff because it's a very cool, it's amazing suite of tools that they put together. Oh, yeah. It's an amazing team that works on Kali Linux. I use it on a non-daily driver on the Minis forum. Remember that they sent to us to test out from the Manjaro team. And I run Kali Linux on it. And that's what I do a lot of my testing. And that's how I shut down my ISP and got kicked off the internet for 24 hours with that little Minis forum over there.
That's how you get punished by your ISP,
Yeah, got punished from that.
So, Jill, tell us about your days as a hacker.
Okay. So back in 2006, when in 2007, when Kali Linux was called Backtrack, and then it was based on Knoppix Linux, I used to use it for things.
Like what things, Jill? Like what?
War driving.
Oh, I don't know what that is. What is war driving? Michael,
War
do you know
driving
what
is
war
when you're in
driving
like a van or something, you send out a signal and you're kind of like you're breaking down Wi-Fi's and then becoming a fake Wi-Fi or
Jill, you wouldn't war
Yeah.
drive.
So Kismet and Aircrack NG, all the things. And I that was like one of the first distros I put on my netbook. So my EPC.
Look how evil she is. She's holding her hands in that little evil, like Dr. Evil manner, you know?
it reminds me of The Simpsons. Excellent.
Yeah,
Yes.
excellent.
So I still have it installed on one of my EPCs.
Now, I'm guessing, Jill, when you were war driving, you were just going around searching for signals so that
Yeah,
you could,
nothing,
nothing
you know,
nefarious.
bad.
Jill would
no,
never
no,
do
no,
anything.
no.
War
Yeah.
driving also, you could just collect the information rather than actually.
Yeah, you don't
doing
have to
stuff with it.
actually. You're not necessarily having to hack into networks. You can just see that you have the ability to do so, but don't harm anyone in the process.
Then choose not to.
Yeah.
Jill, what did you do with Metasploit?
Oh, I better not go there.
So awesome. Jill's so awesome. Man. She was hired by a company to test their security. That's what we'll go with right there.
I did do some security before for a company, so
There you go. That's where she used Metasploit. In case anybody asks, that's the story I'm sticking to.
yes, absolutely.
Kali Linux, very awesome. Check it out if you are looking to check out pen testing or understand some of the tools, but be very careful. Be cautious. You've been warned. You may get kicked out from your ISP. Oh, by the way, when I did get kicked off by the ISP, I didn't realize that's what it was. And I started searching because I was like, I ran that command and then my internet shuts down. And I saw a lot of people talking about getting kicked out of their ISP because of Kali Linux.
Oh.
So there was like a whole, and I knew immediately what had happened. So, yeah, it's not a unique thing. So just you're
Not
one.
unique, but also
Yeah.
it's an interesting experience. I think it's and good content for the show.
Very good content for the show, indeed.
And also, it's funny because you recently got kicked out of your ISP, and I recently got mine connected. Yay!
Yeah. They kicked me out.
Michael,
Made
took
room
for
over
you.
a month.
Yeah,
It was a
today
journey.
was a day over a month. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Wow.
So I should not be interrupting anybody anymore.
Well, Michael, you watch a lot of YouTube videos. Some people say that you are a bona fide street fighter. Is this true?
So back in my jiu-jitsu days, which was
Oh.
yesterday,
Wow.
and
Nice.
in my Muay Thai days, which was a week ago,
Man.
and
You're
I
a
was
YouTube expert.
known to do some street fights here and there,
Bet.
or some shoot fights, in fact, with BJJ Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
And
and,
you know all the terms. You can't fight with crap, but you know all the
You don't know. We've never fought. You
Let's
don't know.
see.
I am undefeated between Ryan and me. I'm
Yeah.
undefeated.
Yeah.
So is Ryan because we've never fought, but still.
Yeah. Verbally, though. Verbally. Man.
Verbally fighting constantly.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that we say verbally in order to fight is the
Before we
starting, of
begin.
course, is you go. And that's
Hadouken. Right?
not Hadouken, bro.
Oh, that's not Hadouken? Which one's
no,
Hadouken?
that's like Sonic Uppercut.
Which one's Hadouken?
Hadouken is the fireball.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's that.
Hadouken.
There you go.
Hadouken.
How
Yeah,
dare
there
you?
Man, darn it.
There's also Tiger Uppercut and another uppercut from the game. I don't remember the other one. But anyway, Hadouken, no longer just a way to ward off someone trying to step to you in the street. You know?
Mess with
Or
me,
launch
bro.
a fireball.
Don't mess with me, bro. I'll fireball you.
You don't want to get fireballed. Now it's not just that's a Street Fighter meme for those who are aware,
Video
not
game
aware.
Street Fighter. Yeah.
If you didn't get it, yeah. So this Hadouken actually packs more than a punch. It packs malware.
That was
Because
really good.
we're talking about some new malware that has Linux as the target, both a crypto miner and a tsunami malware botnet that can perform a DDoS attack. Now, this is interesting because it's specifically targeting Oracle WebLogic servers, at least the version Aqua Security discovered in one of their honeypots. However, it can be modified to go after Windows servers as well. One of the things I love about this information is that we found this out because of these security companies who are purposely putting out systems to be attacked so they can scan it and see all of these things so that they can reveal the information about these. And that's exactly what they did here, because this honeypot had very weak credentials to break through, and therefore they collected all this
information.
We
don't know. I mean, honeypot could look sophisticated. It could even be sophisticated. Honeypot could be a lot of different things, and that's what I think
they
is
said
really cool.
That's true, but and they said in this case it was weak credentials on purpose or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so awesome that there are security companies out there that release these honeypots and then capture this data, and basically you're getting the hackers to expose themselves. Yeah. Trying to get into these systems, and then they're collecting that, and then we get more secure from it before they actually get to a target that can hurt us, although we didn't get in front of this target quick enough, unfortunately. So what's interesting is these Oracle WebLogic servers, Michael, are very popular with big banks and governments and financial institutions of all kinds. So this is being run by an Akira ransomware group where they've found it. And if you think this type of thing is like, well, I don't have to worry about it or whatever, they've already netted $42 million in ransom. And that's over 250 organizations that they've hit with these ransomware hacks. So this is a big deal, right? And according to Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the FBI and Europol's European Cybercrime Center and the National Cyber Security Center in the Netherlands, it's now got its sights heavily on Linux. So this hacking group is heavily targeting Linux to see what they can get. So if you have some Linux servers out there, you may want to have a honeypot of your own, right? To see if you can catch this stuff early and see if they're using, because what happens is we've got this version. There's probably some patches and things that have already happened, will happen, but then they'll modify it slightly to kind of attack in a different vector. And so that's where the dangers come in with these things.
So constantly have your stuff up to date. And,
one of the things that I think is interesting about this is that they download a shell script named C and a Python script named Y. And then, obviously it can either do ransomware, it can do a DDoS, it can do these botnet things, but it always apparently searches for your SSH credentials while it's at it. So that's one of the plays that it gets. And imagine if you get those SSH credentials, now you can start spreading it across all of the servers in the company and things. So very sophisticated attacks.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot. It
also looks like this HADOOKEN thing is a something that can transition across networks. So it can affect more and more things as it's going.
Scary.
Yeah. And Linux to Windows potentially, Yeah.
And it's a good name for an attack because, it's but other than that, it's terrible. And first of all, so the people who are making this, you're awful. You should feel awful. Futurama reference. And but also, if you are worried about being affected by this, it is directly for a particular type of server that you are probably not using. And that's just something to say that we're talking about this because they are now focusing on Linux. And there's a lot of people who are talking about how Linux is more and more attacked because it's getting more popular and therefore it's a bigger target. But this is a terrible argument. And when people talk about Windows versus Linux and the security aspects, they're usually referring to, Linux is only, not attacked because Windows is so big and Linux is so small. This is an example of something on a server, and Linux servers are the dominant thing. We have 90% of the internet powered by Linux. So if that was the case, then these wouldn't be happening, very often.
We're going to see a lot more of this too.
We are going to see more because people are just trying, because Windows is technically getting better in security. It used to be hot garbage. Now it's just slightly trash. So it's improved, but it's still in the trashy aspects of security, but it has improved a lot. It just means that where they started was abysmal. But Linux is still going to get some more attacks, and that's still going to happen. But there is this one of the articles. There's a quote from someone from Keeper Security, which is like a password tool, And then I started researching this company. They have some real, like they have a comparison section about like their password manager versus other password managers. You could check it out for yourself. But the way they word stuff is just so sketch because they have like, oh, our stuff is great. Their stuff is not so great. But then the way they word it is like they're purposefully ignoring certain aspects where one, for example, Bitwarden, they said Bitwarden does have a cloud service, but the self-hosted version is super hard to get set up and Keeper is so easy. Like, well, so is the cloud version for Bitwarden. Like, what are you talking about? So it made me look more closely to what he said in the article because they reached out to him apparently for some kind of take. And he says Linux servers often host critical applications and data, making them attractive targets for extortion. The open source nature of Linux lets threat actors analyze and exploit vulnerabilities more easily, potentially leading to large-scale attacks with greater impact. It's critical for organizations to implement robust cybersecurity measures, including timely patching, network segmentation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all the stuff about what they should do, that's true. I mean, that's kind of like basic cybersecurity, patch your system, do tests on your system, all that sort of stuff. But the part where there's like open source nature of Linux lets it be no. That's not how it works.
No.
When you have a system that has tens of thousands of developers fixing things all the time, that has new releases every 6 weeks, it's just annoying to see these kinds of takes because it's clearly it's misleading, but also it's like a justification for themselves to be proprietary. Like if you want to be proprietary, that's fine. Just don't make up other stuff about the things that you're comparing to.
Right. What's interesting to me is that there's so many scams going on right now. And we've talked about in the show prior about how sophisticated these scams are getting. And there's a lot of people out there still that are saying things like privacy doesn't matter, although I hear it a lot less than I used to, because I think people are starting to understand the real world implications that not having privacy is doing. Like there are people who are getting more expensive insurance bills because they found out that their cars were reporting their driving that they signed in one of their documents when they bought their car that they had no clue because they didn't really read it, just like the terms and conditions and privacy policy, that was happening. And so these are having real impacts on people. Your privacy does matter. It's going to impact you if it hasn't already. And the thing about these companies that are, not being held accountable for all of the data they accumulate and then lose to whatever hacks or just complete complacency when it comes to storing their data and things on open AWS servers and all this nonsense that's gone on, is that these hackers are becoming much, much more sophisticated. When they calling you or they're messaging you, they're giving you real information on your actual bank that you use, your actual birth date information, even your actual social security number, because that's been leaked everywhere too. And they've got all this information that makes them sound super legitimate. There's one thing though that I want to talk to people about, because there's some very sad cases where hackers are compromising photos or other information. And these obviously are embarrassing photos or embarrassing situations. And then they are releasing it or threatening to release this information to these teenagers, kids, adults, families. So because you have social media, they can see who you're all linked to, who all your family is, and all these things. They get these pictures. One is webcam footage potentially. And then they threaten to give it to the family if they don't pay them a certain amount of money. First thing to remember is 99.9% of the time, these are just complete scams. They don't actually have the pictures. One of them actually has like a fake picture of a room, a very generic dark picture of a room that people are getting fooled by to think that that's actually their room that they got a picture of and things. There are times where they do get into a cloud if you're storing your pictures in cloud services and things and don't have those properly secured. Where they do actually get the pictures. The problem is that this is leading to some horrible situations where kids are making terrible decisions because they think their life's over because these photos and things get compromised. So really, this is a warning to parents out there, or even uncles, or any family member, to talk to your kids, nephews, whomever, any teenagers, kids in college, anybody who would be susceptible to this that may not understand that, number one, most of the time it's a scam. Number two, even if it's not, there are really bad people out there, and there are ways to handle these type of situations. There are organizations specifically that will go hunt these groups down and try to get this stuff taken down. There's a lot of things that can be done. It's not the end of the world. And I think it's very important for people to have those conversations with their family members out there. So Hadooken's obviously not targeting personal information, but I wanted to talk about that because there's a documentary out there right now kind of talking about this and the horrible consequences it's having on certain people's lives. And so I think when we talk about security and privacy, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about it, Ryan. It's important because I had seen another documentary not too long ago that was targeting children. One of these really vulnerabilities. Yeah. It's scary. It's really scary.
And also, you talked about how some cars are now reporting your driving activity. I've found some cars are embedding. Like all of these cars have cameras now everywhere. Like there's the backup camera that everybody knows about, but there's also like other cameras for sensors and whatever. But there's also now some cars are putting cameras inside of the cabin of the car to track the person driving. And they say it's for safety reasons in case you have the autopilot going and therefore you're not doing it properly and blah, 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 blah. But I have to say, in no way is it okay for someone to have a camera in my car pointed at me at all times just because like what am I buying at this point? Like, right. Like this is like,
why are you giving this to me for free, like a Google search, and exactly. You're stealing all my data?
Yeah, you're making me have pay thousands and thousands of dollars for surveillance of myself that I didn't even know. And it's crazy because a lot of cars are doing that. Sometimes they're even purposefully hiding them. Like some companies are putting it out outright in your face on the steering column, and then some are putting it in the dash, like next to the vents or something. Like it's a sketchy thing.
It's a mad world. It's a very mad
So privacy is a very important thing. And even though this is not necessarily related to Hadooken, security is security. So, stay alert.
The good news about all of this is it really got me thinking about how much I miss playing Street Fighter. That was one of my favorite games.
That's true.
Ever. Yeah.
It has been a very long time since I played Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, the Hadooken spelling used for the malware is actually spelled incorrectly. If it was referring to the term given to a special attack with fireballs from Capcom's Street Fighter series of fighting games, the correct spelling is Hadooken, Hadouken, not Hadooken, Hadooken.
Listen, Professor Jill coming in to save the day. Yeah. They should be so embarrassed they just delete the malware.
Not only are you terrible people, you're also terrible at spelling. I mean,
these bad actors don't know how to spell correctly.
Get good, bro.
They didn't go to school.
Your spelling's Ohio dog water. All right. So, we talked last week about Apple and some of its privacy things it's doing with AI and stuff. There's this really interesting, you've probably heard about this if you look into cybersecurity and things at all, but if you're new, there's a company in Israel called NSO, and this group makes a tool called Pegasus. Pegasus is a very, very powerful tool that can essentially break into any phone, anytime, remotely, and is supposed to be used by governments as a counterintelligence tool, but its capabilities that we know of so far are quite shocking. There are reports that you don't even have to open the text message that it sends you. Once it sends you the text message, it has full control of your device, whether that be Android or iPhone. Like the things that people are saying about this tool and the stories out there of what it can do is astounding. So I obviously don't have access to the tool. I can't tell you if it works that way or not, but we know this company is a very big company, makes a lot of money off these tools. So I'm quite certain it's very effective in some manner, right? And it's been over the news and a lot of documentaries about security and things because of obviously the abuse of this tool. Because once you use a tool like this, somebody else can capture it, right? And then they can potentially reverse engineer and utilize it.
Once you make this kind of tool
and use it,
yeah,
it's out there.
It's also software, so it's not like it can't be copied.
Yeah. Well, would you download a car, Michael?
100%.
Okay, cool. So this NSO
Unless
group,
it has a camera in the cabin tracking me, then I don't want to download that car.
you remember
But you
those
could
movies?
download the software from your car, someone else's car, and stop it from starting.
Oh, Jill, I'm starting to worry about Jill, Michael. Like, we thought she was all this nice, friendly Jill, but turning out she's an elite hacker.
We are learning quite a bit this episode about our friend Jill.
Man, I'm kind of scared. Last week we were talking about her hacking into my computer, and this week she's just finally coming out with all
And
this.
it just so happens that
She's a hacker.
She might have already done it before.
Right. So the NSO group has been sued by Apple back in 2021. So they've had a lawsuit out there for the last 3 years for the fact that it uses this Pegasus tool on iPhones. However, this week, Apple dropped the case, which shocked a lot of people. A lot of people were very happy that Apple was pursuing this lawsuit to kind of stop this tool from getting out any further. And the reason Apple gave for dropping the case reportedly is that they're afraid if this case continues, Pegasus will use the information in the discovery phase of the case to essentially to continue to improve their tool. As in Apple's words, they will use any means necessary to get information about how their system works and utilize it. Yeah. So instead of potentially revealing sensitive information, Apple has decided to just give up. And I think it's a shame because we have to wonder how much Apple can do actually to block these kind of companies who are using exploits they're not making known to the public and potentially doing all kinds of damage and things, especially if these things get out in the wild, like we mentioned before. So, yeah, crazy.
Supposedly, these are good actors that are trying to do good for society.
His government's good.
Because that's why I said
we support our government.
That's why I gave a lot of snark when I said good actors. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, these kinds of things shouldn't exist, and it's a shame that this happened. It makes sense that Apple, like what their reasoning makes sense to drop it, but also it's kind of a shame because these kinds of things, especially if it just requires sending messages and you don't even have to open the message, I'm pretty confident I'm just going to delete SMSs and like just the functionality from
that was one of our tips of the week is to not allow messages. There's a way to block downloading of any videos or photos.
Yeah, but not to download anything. I was just going to block all messages, period. Like all.
Just block them all. Yeah. I mean, I don't read yours anyway, so I might as well just block them.
I mean, exactly. I don't think you read any at this point.
I think you're Pegasus. I think you're the founder.
Oh, well, recently.
That's probably Jill.
No, yes.
Probably Jill. You're right. That's, man.
I do like Pegasus.
I'm sure you do. Since you founded it. Jill.
No.
I think she meant the flying horses.
Flying horses, yeah. So actually recently on Destination Linux episode number 386, we actually talked about fingerprint and credit card data being at risk on Android phones, but Apple wasn't mentioned in the title of the article, even though their phones, have the same horrible vulnerabilities. And, it's when we talk about information about this recent issue, and Apple actually is gatekeeping and keeping security breaches out of the news. So this is no surprise.
Yeah, because you have to wonder.
It's scary.
Are they dropping the case because they don't want people to know how? Are they really dropping it because of the reveal? Obviously, Pegasus has a lot of information they want. And in the discovery phase, I know lawyers have the ability to request certain information and things, but it has to have some relevance to the case. Is it really that Apple doesn't want people to know like how easy it was and how vulnerable they were? And it goes back to your point, Michael, of saying like these companies that say, oh, open source is more dangerous because you can see the code. But we have no idea in a closed system whether Apple can say they're the most private thing in the world. Android can say they're the most private thing in the world. One, you can actually check. The other, you can't. And so without reverse engineering, so we don't know. There could have been a vulnerability that's so stupid. It's like your passwords in your notepad file and all your encryption keys are stored, in an open folder right there. Like we don't know. And that could be something they're trying to hide too. We just don't know because it's closed source, and that's the dangers of proprietary. So there's give and take. Not one's necessarily always the path to take, but there's give and take in either of those scenarios.
Yeah. And in many cases, I mean, companies like Apple have to have, some security policies in place, so this is especially for like, government investigation and whatnot. So it's there has to be that security there, but it would be nice to find out a little more information.
With the subpoena through the courts, through the proper channels is how it's supposed to work. I'm not quite sure sending a text message and getting full access to everybody's stuff.
Yeah, the way that Pegasus apparently works is not. It also makes you think about maybe this Pegasus thing is how, because there was like this report in 2016, I believe, that the FBI was contacting Apple and trying to get them to open up a phone for some suspect or something. And they didn't do it. They didn't want to do it. And then all of a sudden, the FBI stops trying to get Apple to do it because they found a third party who was able to help. I'm like, okay, that's scary.
That is. Yeah. Nobody believed that story, as I recall, to begin with, because they had physical access to the phone, but claimed they couldn't get into it. The belief was they were actually utilizing that to get Apple to open an easier backdoor so that they could remote into it. But
because they had physical access. It was just like, you should be able to get in. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they could get in. They're just Anyways, Jill, let's there's a lot of cybersecurity thing. I feel like there's a lot of Ryan all over this episode. Let's get something
which is
non-cybersecurity.
I know.
Disgusting.
Aww.
Just gross. What do we got in gaming?
Well, after all that hacking and hearing about all these bad actors, maybe you just want an idle clicker game to relax with.
Sounds good.
Our game this week is called Sword and Shield Idle. And on Steam, the game is described like this. Enter a never-ending idle game. Battle creatures, rescue captives, forge swords, wield shields, and get special boosts. Each restart makes you tougher. Easy to play, deep in strategy, and embark on an idle incremental adventure set in a dungeon teeming with monsters. Progress through each deep where every boss room presents a unique opportunity to free prisoners.
That's sweet. Yeah. Get to go in there and hack and slash. Oh, dang it. I said hack again.
Yes,
I can't stop myself.
Yes, you did. So Sword and Shield Idle is a fun, it's a fun top-down game with minimal graphics and lots of cool weapon sound effects. It does have very deep mechanics, but I found them easy to master. And the game has a fun dungeon progression and boss fights that are both challenging and keep you wanting more. And I honestly had played the demo for Sword and Shield Idle during the last Steam Next Fest and enjoyed it. So I just went ahead and grabbed the full version. And it's only $2.99 on Steam, so it's only a few bucks.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, and it runs on Linux out of the box.
I don't get these kind of clicker games. Yeah.
Why not?
Just not my thing. I don't get it.
Click it.
Just constantly clicking.
Click it.
I don't get it. But
it's kind of brainless. Like I consider it like eye bleach. It's kind of brain bleach. You just kind of endlessly like, I'm doing something that I don't have to think about. Like, if you have a hard day at work, your brain's all code infused and everything. You just, I just want to click something and look like I'm playing a game.
Okay, fair enough.
I like watching other people play video games. Maybe I don't know. Yeah. I honestly never got into them either, Michael. I was just trying to figure out.
This was a fun one. I don't usually either, but this one was a fun one.
Very cool. All right, Jill, let's get back into cybersecurity. I'm sick of this happy crap.
Yeah.
We were so close to getting away from
so close.
Cybersecurity stuff.
Darn you, Ryan.
You thought you were done.
You thought you were done. No.
We're not done.
So maybe Kali Linux isn't your thing, but investigating punk hackers is? Here we go
Jill,
again.
Did you write that? Punk hackers part? Are you talking about me?
You wrote that one. Oh, I wrote the one in the gaming.
Okay.
So
but she's talking about me.
Yeah. So our software spotlight this week is really a Linux distribution spotlight. And the distro is called CSI Linux. It works amazing in a virtual machine, as well, so you don't have to make it your main distro.
Nice.
Very,
Also,
very
CSI
similar
Linux,
to
not to
Kali.
be confused with CSI Miami.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
also has elite hackers in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
Doesn't CSI have some of the worst hacking scenes of
It
any
is
show?
Yeah, they
there's
do.
there's literally a CSI Cyber, which
Yeah.
was so bad that it got canceled after like a couple seasons because it like the CSI Miami, the CSI whatever they are. There's like who knows, tons of them, but they all do like the worst possible hacking experience, and I feel like it's they have to know that it's nonsense and it's just funny for that purpose because they can't believe it's real. But CSI Cyber was the worst one because they started making up stuff that's like not even like it doesn't even seem real, like it doesn't even seem possible. Even for people who are not technical, I've had people who tell me like this show is stupid because there's no way that that's real. Like there was one where they were driving down the road and they were connecting to the car smart tires through some kind of like the air clamp that tightens on the air nozzle. So somehow those were smart and had Bluetooth, and they would connect and track the car based on this Bluetooth thing. You're like, what are you talking about?
I gotta look these
a little
up.
plug for the tire. That's
a pretty good
funny.
idea. I feel like you could hide a little Bluetooth device inside the.
But how?
cap
Okay, but
for air.
you're not gonna be able to like consistently jump back and forth between a pole and like Bluetooth only has 20 feet of being able to detect.
Listen,
right?
Don't kill my dreams. Smarting the smart tire company.
Yeah.
So,
Well, smart tire plug.
So they were saying that every single light pole had some kind of Bluetooth receiver, and it was able to jump back and forth. And it was just like, what kind
goodness.
of what weird alternate universe are you in that all of this infrastructure is set up? Like,
Michael, you know I love terrible movies and terrible shows, and I gotta be honest with you, you've talked me into watching this show now.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, if you want more garbage that's like hacker nonsense, check out Scorpion. It's
that's a good
horrible.
Yeah, I enjoyed that show.
It is funny for how ridiculous it is because it is like the first episode. You're like, what? No, you can't even pretend that this makes sense.
So
they hacked a plane while it's moving, trying to take off by connecting it from a convertible car with I don't know, just like a parallel port or something, and then somehow they're hacking it as it's trying to take off.
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
I kind of remember that.
I've seen that before. It's real. It's very realistic.
Yeah,
very realistic.
They need to take some tips from James Bond. I mean, let's just face it.
Yeah, I think James Bond
at least makes it clear that this is ridiculous.
Yeah. So, but CSI Linux is actually is a focused Linux distribution for digital forensics and was developed as an open source theme park for the cybersecurity industry. It also comes with
what kind of rides
AI.
They have as this theme park. I want to.
Yeah, I know. Metasploit. So it also comes with an AI assistant called Navi, and it uses Ubuntu LTS on the back end. And while CSI Linux, could be used for pen testing, where its tools really shine is in forensics with things like CSI Tools, which is a wide array of tools catering to various investigation needs, cryptocurrency wallet lookup, which is a quick search and analysis of cryptocurrency wallet transactions.
Ooh.
Centralized evidence capture, which is an organized collection and storage of critical evidence. There's custom GUIs and forensic disk image mounter, forensic volume and image write blocker, which is a protection against accidental alterations to original data. There's just so much packed into CSI Linux. You should go to the website and check it out. And I was running the distro just recently as we were going through.
Wish you were, Jill.
Yeah.
She probably found it.
She's so busted, man. She's such a hacker.
Well, it's kind of funny because I had ran it when it was a new distro, but way back
Mhm.
when. And what's nice now is it's so much more organized. So it's got actually predefined topics. So if you want to, for instance, do a forensic disk image mounter, there's actually a topic, a menu that you click on, and then you'll get those tools available, which is really nice.
Has that made
Nice.
it easier for you to run Pegasus with those tools?
Yeah.
Curious.
And what I found is really, really cool. This is something awesome because I have some friends that have taken these courses. You can even take a free CSI Linux Academy course. And if you pass the exam, you can earn the CSIL-CI certification that you can use for cyber forensics and cybersecurity jobs.
It's really cool.
So it's legit.
That is very cool.
It's very legit.
That's very cool.
And I heard that even Amazon uses this. So
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
that's praise indeed.
So I think CSI Linux or Cecil is a very interesting distribution.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just wanted to call it Cecil, really.
Cecil. I know, that's good, Michael. And you can download pre-built virtual machines of CSI Linux for VirtualBox, VMware, or QEMU, or as a pre-built disk image, which I did.
Very nice. All right, Jill, what's going on in the tip of the week?
So there are quite a few players trying to bring some form of Linux onto Android devices, since, after all, Android runs on a Linux kernel. One that's looking very promising is Lindroid. And yes, this is a happy topic, not one of hacking.
Oh, kind of, you have to hack it to use it. You have to root your phone. So.
You do, actually, but this is happy hacking.
Okay.
So if you want a containerized version of Linux on your mobile phone, this might be a great tool for you. Lindroid is stating they have a hardware accelerated version of Linux working on Android, and it uses Wayland. It's the only one I know of that's really using Wayland right now. So currently you will need to put your hacker hat on, as your device will need to be rooted, but those things can change as it gets more mature, which is so true. They were going to make this process easier, I'm sure. So many of you out there are old school Android rooters, so it won't be a problem for you. And like for me and Michael and Ryan, we've done rooting our phones.
Devices before you were even born.
I've been rooting them since Unix.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're a rootin' tootin' bunch.
We root everything. I root everything. I don't care what. I rooted my refrigerator. I root it.
It doesn't even have a smart device in it. Just rooted it anyway.
Just rooted it.
You figure out how, and then you can root yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a ask for everyone out in the community. If you use Lindroid, we would love to hear from you and what you loved about it and how well does it actually work for you. Because it's still very much a work in progress. And so it takes a bit of going through all the instructions and doing some compiling and whatnot. But
random side note, we were talking about, I just made that ridiculous joke about hacking a fridge. I kind of want to hack my microwave because I hate my microwave. Because like there's, you know how like some microwaves, you just click one of the numbers and it's like, oh, 2 minutes, one button. This one I have now does not do that. You have to put the regular thing like a savage barbarian.
You have to type 200
start.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Why don't I just cook it over a campfire or dig a hole in the dirt and just put some coal in there and cover it back up? Like, why don't I
you get it.
brick oven if I have to push 3 buttons?
I literally looked up to see if I could change this. I cannot. So sad.
You can hack it with a Raspberry Pi. I'm sure someone in our community tell you how. You know,
I would love
was
to
it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, you got this, Michael. I want to know. I want an update next week of how you've hacked this thing. There's got to be something, even if it's as dumb as putting like a little plastic thing that you glue to the 3 buttons that you need for 2 minutes that you push, and it just gives you your 2 minutes. You've got to come up with some hack by next week, even if it's dumb. for how you can make it so you only have to push once.
So like I would have to basically make it where there's like one prong is longer than the other prong, so it hits it in an order. It's like boom, 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 boom.
Yes, like something, or you could electronically hack it, or
I mean,
whatever.
I did a workaround because like 2 minutes.
No, it's for next week. You shut it. Whatever the trick is, it's next week.
Oh,
We'll give it the microwave hack.
We're gonna save this super important information.
yeah.
If you want to know how to save half a millisecond, you got to tune in next week. Hit that subscribe button, people.
Because I retro hacked my analog hacked my microwave.
Still
That's
a hack,
cool,
right,
Michael?
Jill?
Yes, absolutely. It's like back in the day with DVD players to make them region free so I could play my British DVDs.
Oh my gosh, Jill, will you please quit telling us about your crimes? All right. A big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. Come join us on Discord. Go to tuxdigital.com/Discord. Our whole community's there. Talk about all the cool things you hear about the show. And if you want to watch us live, become a patron of Destination Linux.
Yeah, and you go to tuxdigital.com/membership to become a patron. You get those perks plus also many, many other perks, including unedited versions of the show and so much more. So, and also the unedited versions usually come out a little early too. But that's not a guarantee, but probably. But also, if you want some merch like this shirt or the shirts that Jill is wearing, and nothing that Ryan is picking up right now. Oh, actually, that's a good. He finally picked up something that is relevant to us. Although that sticker is not
swag
in the store.
I got close.
But
darn.
tuxdigital.com/store where you can get a bunch of cool swag like shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, and even more. So tuxdigital.com/store.
And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right, we have an entire network of awesome shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to tuxdigital.com to check them all out.
And everybody, have a great week. And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Man, the way you inflected on those words,
it was I was trying to get express it in like the most profound way, even though we've said this 389 times.
You know what makes Jill such a great criminal? Is that when you look at her room, you don't think criminal. If a cop walks in there,
you would never believe.
Like, nah, not her.
Plushy penguin.
See, she's trying to change the subject. That's how she gets the cops off her case. They bust down her door. They know the hacks are coming there, and she's like, "Plushy penguin." And they're like, "Nah, can't be her."
They're like, "No, it's not her. No,
it's
no
not
chance.
Jill. Could be anybody else, but not Jill." We're on to you, Jill.
We know your secret.
See you next week, everyone.
Yeah, see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Love you all.
Most of you.